Okay. Right. All right. Full screen this actually. All right. Before we get into the video, I'd just like to clarify, this is my first ever time making a proper YouTube video, and I know this is a really shitty format. Yes, I'm using slides, as dumb as it is. Don't worry, this is probably the first and only time you'll ever see me doing this. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into this. Now, why am I making this? Well, I have opinions about Jurassic World Evolution 3, and I want to get them out there. And putting them on Discord threads or Reddit is kind of pointless, especially in a day where so many people use YouTube. So that's why I'm making this video. So, Jurassic World Evolution 3 Management Wish List by yours truly down here. Okay, to go off of so just for some background information, I have played both games for about 600 hours each. So I know just about everything. Like it's the back of my hand. It's quite ridiculous. Geez, I'm doing a lot of stuttering. Um, Now the reason why I may brought this topic up is, as much as I've seen so many people in the community suggest such great ideas, like baby dinosaurs, advanced terrain tools, all these great things, no one asks for like new management focused items, which is why I have 5 items here: systems, mechanics, things that I think if got overhauled or added to the game, I think it would extend the lifespan and make the game more complicated. And I have my images here. We have the greenhouse, the genetic system, Operation Genesis will be a major reference in this video, disease, and power. Starting with the simplest one, power doesn't need a whole lot of changes. For starters, the backup generator should be able to be attacked by dinosaurs. This is because they kind of just get created and that's it. They act as a power source that can't be damaged by anything except for storms. And I know the purpose of them is to be used during a storm, but it kind of is pointless if it's like, oh, a storm knocked out my power station. Backup generator just fixes that. I think giving dinosaurs like T-Rex the ability to destroy it gives some more uh, struggle to it because you could have a tornado knock out your power station and then have your generator get taken out by a Rex and then go have to fix your generator manually, as well as other forms of power too. Because all we do is burn fossil fuel in this game, and if the third one is focused around conservation, well, perhaps we could take some advice from this little cartoonish image here. Geothermal, wind, hydro, all of these very eco-friendly, even nuclear as dumb as it sounds. Maybe you could have some connection that goes off map and hooks up to a nuclear plant, something like that. Moving on. Okay, I've taken from the Jurassic Park fandom wiki, you in your hands, the ultimate power to create and destroy, design, build, and rule your own thrilling theme park, with real dinosaurs as the main attraction. Highlighted here, command everything from ticket prices to the T-Rex. The World Jurassic Park is yours. This is something that I see a lot of people, especially big content creators, suggest, like Triclaw Gaming, Swerve, Evolution Square, Editing Me, pop up their YouTube icons on the screen. Because in Jurassic Park Operation Genesis, you can control the price of, your entrance. And you can do this in Planet Zoo and in Planet Coaster. And this is the third installment. I really hope that this either is in the game or gets added. Because it just allows you to have so much more control and dictate stuff. Like, you could even make your park completely free and rely off the income from your shops. There are zoos that work like that. Completely free to come see the animals, but if you want to buy a hot dog, that costs you money. And not just the entrance, but hotels, restrooms, attractions, viewing galleries, other guest buildings, and we'll get the photographs in a second. So you have a hotel in the second game. You could have a price on it, so maybe rich people are more likely to go here, or cheap people, people on a budget. Restaurants, the first game, you could actually charge. Funnily enough, bring this back. Give us the ability to charge people. Same thing with toilets. Make toilets free or cost money. You could be really evil. And viewing galleries, the monorails, you can even could have a price. The T-Rex Kingdom could have a price. And just to add another level of element, you could have guests give you a suggested price. So, like maybe through the game accounts for all of your buildings, all your dinosaurs in the park, and then the game gives you a recommended price from the guest's point of view. It would be cheaper, but the guest would be happy. And then you could get another recommended price from a management standpoint where it's more costly and it's like you would look at it and be like, "Oh yeah, that's fair. We should charge more," but at the same time, people don't want to spend more. And the other aspect too, as I said with photographs, have these be sellable. I think you could do this in Operation Genesis, but when you took a picture, you could sell it at gift shops. And I like the idea that depending on the value of the picture, you know, would increase your sales because you can, sell a really cool picture. Next up, overhaul the paleobotany system. Now, this system, to give background information, was first introduced in Jurassic World Evolution 1 with Declare's Sanctuary DLC, with mixed reviews, and then it got brought back in Evolution 2 as a foliage brush with also mixed reviews. First up, bring back this greenhouse. It seems weird that we can just grow these plants in the modern day when we should have to build a building where we grow them. Because, fun fact, in Evolution 2, there is actually a specific challenge mode where you don't have these plants unlocked at the start. You have to research them. So imagine if you have to build this building and then research them. It would give this building a use. I mean, come on, it looks so cool. As I have in this bullet point, like literally right here, I just did it. New plants and rebalancing. Now, if anyone here has watched any of the gameplay trailers for Evolution 3, like myself, as recording this, a new one came out where it showed the needs of a baby sauropod. The problem with that is that it's basically like, oh, they need to eat ground plants. But the same plants that give tall nut also give ground nut. So there's no difficulty there. You just place down the same plant and problem solved. Basically what I'm trying to say is this plant right here, most overpowered plant in the game, it gives tall fruit, tall fiber, and ground fiber. It's all packaged into one. So there's no reason to use like almost any other plant in the game. Which is why I'm like rebalancing and adding new plants would work. Add new kinds of plants for the dinos to eat, as well as changing the values of some plants. Greenhouse should also be an attraction. This I think was an idea suggested possibly by Triclaw Gaming. If not, I'll post the actual YouTuber that I watched. He made a video. Some YouTuber made a video on it, and that's where I got this idea from. Long story short, basically, the greenhouse, as you put more plants in it, gains more, rating and money. Because some people might want to see prehistoric plants. There are those people, you know what I mean? I think that would also be another way. It would also be a nice reference back to the first game, where Captain Finch even tries to suggest the idea to Claire, like, eat what the dinos eat. Literally, it's a genius idea. I mean, we're trying to make money here. Paleo plants can also be placed as a decoration. Now, this one, some people will especially like. You see those ginkgo trees back there, or these plants here? Imagine if once you researched and unlocked the plant, you could place them as individual decorations, and they would still function as a food source. That would be perfect. That way you could place all the ginkgo trees, all the grass as much as you want without having to use the brush. And finally, other things related to paleobotany. Herbivore feeders return and they're useful in the early game. Now, the use I thought of these was that during the early game, when you start out your park, you still haven't, got a greenhouse yet or researched these. You place these down. Now, how would they work? They would satisfy the dinosaur's needs to eat, and they would be happy, but they wouldn't get a bonus. So, like in the first game, when they got their paleo needs met, they got a bonus. And when they eat the paleo needs or get them, they will get a bonus. So basically, these just function as a stand in, you know what I mean? You can throw them in there, they'll be fine, but you could also get the plants. And as they have bullet point here, the paleo plants provide a bonus. And finally, improve feeding behavior. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, to simply explain it, in Jurassic World Evolution 1, when you had paleo plants, you would put them into a feeder. Now, for some dinosaurs, they would either be harmful, neutral, or positive. If they were positive, they got a bonus. If they were neutral, they had no impact, they just fed them. And if they were harmful, they would decrease their lifespan. Now, here's where it gets dumb. They would eat the plants even though they were harmful. In fact, if you gave a herbivore a option between a regular feeder and a paleo feeder, they would eat the paleo feeder even if it was harmful, which completely makes no sense. And even crazier, in the second game, they can eat from any paleo plants they want. As long as their needs are met, so say a Parasaurolophus has all the tall nut it needs, it can eat from ground fiber for some reason, don't make no sense. So when I say improve feeding behavior, I mean by if a dinosaur like a Brachiosaurus can only eat tall nut, it can only eat tall nut or from a paleo feeder. It can't eat from anything else. Now, I will say if it's getting hungry and it can't find the correct food, it will eat a plant that's neutral towards it because it's not going to try to starve to death. And if it's starving to death, they will obviously eat anything they can, even if it's harmful, since, it's a last ditch effort. But I think that would allow people to segregate herbivores because you can divide them with food. You can have ground leaf over here, fiber over here, and then in between have tall nut. So that way, if they try to cross, they can't because the food they need is not present. All right, second to last one. Making disease exist again. New diseases, redesigning pre-existing ones, unconditional diseases, example hooks, tickworms. Now, what do I mean by this? In Jurassic World Evolution 1, no matter what you did, disease would always spawn. Now, it was on like a timer of some sort, but basically you couldn't get rid of it. It would always pop up here and there, even if you were at 5 stars, had millions of dollars, your dinosaurs could still get sick. In Evolution 2, at 2 stars, you can research vaccines. Now, that might not sound like a big deal. It's just the problem is it means there are only 4 diseases in the game that can actually do harm to your dinosaurs. Once you research the vaccines, they never appear again. And that's the problem I have. So, first order of business, there needs to be more diseases, and they need to redesign how they work. Because the game has a description for each disease and how it functions. The only one that works really is rabies, which makes the dinosaur aggressive for no reason, but that's fine because that's what rabies does. In my opinion, every disease should have a unique way it spreads and spawns onto the map. It shouldn't just appear out of nowhere. And then unconditional diseases like ticks and hookworms should have to be treated in a different way. You shouldn't have to pull out a dart and shoot the animal and be like, all right, he's no longer got ticks. You should have to do something else. We also have, I'm talking ahead of myself. Uh, and yeah, also, bonus, paleo plants can make herbivores sick. In the first film, literally this Triceratops right here was caught, I think if I remember eating Western Indian lilac. Have it to where when herbivores eat the incorrect food that's harmful, they can get sick. Because in Jurassic World Evolution 2, there is a disease called ivy poisoning, and this description states the dinosaur gets it from eating poisonous plants. But there are no poisonous plants in the game. In fact, the only time you see this disease is in the Chaos Theory mode for Jurassic Park. It's a scripted event where 3 Triceratops that you own will get ivy poisoning, and then the game tells you to cure them. So, yeah, I think, doing all this would first off make disease more deadly and more dangerous, like an outbreak would be more possible. And then vaccines. Now, vaccines and disease are expensive to research, so the cures and the vaccines should not be cheap. And vaccines shouldn't last forever. In Operation Genesis, in fact, when you gave a dinosaur a vaccine, it would wear off after a month, I think. So you would have to re-administer it. So then you would ask the question, is it better to spend tons of money to keep the animals in a constant state where they're vaccinated, or is it better to just be on high alert with the cure in hand? And then finally, unlock requirements should be hard. The only requirement in all of Evolution 2 that I would say is difficult is avian pox, or no, avian influenza. It requires you to quarantine all the dinosaurs that are sick with it for 15 minutes. That is really stressful and hard, but it's the only disease that has a difficulty like that. Every other disease, just research it. I mean, rabies, you have to take a picture of the animal, which, yeah, it's unique, but like it would be better if every disease has something unique about it. And then other things related to disease. These are just some ideas I thought of. Like, if this came out as an update, I think these features would go alongside it really well. First off, give the cars an inventory. Yes, I have Minecraft here, but let me explain. In Jurassic World Evolution, both games, when you want to go cure a dinosaur manually, in fact, there's even an achievement for it, you just pull out a dart rifle, shoot the animal, and call it a day. What if, as a player, you got an inventory where it would show each cure that you unlock? So you could say crippleiosis, tuberculosis, avian pox, influenza, you get the idea. And then you would have the vaccines there too. So you would select tuberculosis, shoot the animal, select the vaccine, shoot the animal, done. That would be so much better, especially if you had a full inventory full of different medicines, and then the health dart, the default dart that heals the animals would be its own separate thing too. This would also give the achievement and other missions surrounding the idea where you have to manually cure the animals just a little bit more realism. And finally, the DX virus. Now, this is also taken from the Jurassic Park fandom wiki. The DX virus, if you know anything about it, is a prion infection from the second novel, The Lost World. Not to go into crazy depth, but I think the idea of it being introduced in a custom scenario like challenge mode on Isla Sorna, crazy idea. I could make a whole video how this thing could work, but the long story short is it would be like the most deadly virus in the game. So deadly to where it wouldn't have a vaccine. It's a disease that you just simply have to deal with. You can't permanently get rid of it. And and just one other note, I should have probably actually wrote this down, but it gives us the ability to make our dinosaurs sick in sandbox. As dumb as it sounds, I know there are people that would like to do that. It would also make maps where it's horror focused great because you could give them all the DX virus. Be perfect. And finally, let us play God and make mistakes that we can't undo. This is going to be a long one. Okay. Image. Playing God. This is a book, by the way. I have not read it, but it fits this topic really well. Overhauling the genetic system. I will get to that more in depth, but basically the whole system needs to be completely redone. We need more advanced gene editing. So instead of just attack, defense, resilience, just imagine if you could alter like nocturnal, like you know what I mean? The nocturnal trait in evolution too, when the animal prefers to sleep more during the day and is active at night. Imagine if you could change that. Varying stats. Okay, what I mean by varying stats, I mean by every dinosaur in the game has default stat. T-Rex has 100 attack, 30 defense, example. Imagine if there was more like a spectrum, where T-Rex could have 110 attack to 90 attack, while 100 is, they use the base stat, decrease it by 10, increase it by 10. That is the spectrum. When you make a T-Rex, it can have attack between anywhere in between those two numbers. And modifying the genes, whether you do that positively or negatively, decreases that minimum and maximum threshold accordingly. And genes that mean more than meets the eye. I'll explain that more. And consequences to our actions. Because we're, creating genetic freaks. There should be consequences. First off, what do I mean? Perfect. More unpredictable stats. So here you have, the standard Jurassic World Evolution 2 gene editing. You would basically have, well, you would basically say, scroll over to the attack gene, and it would say Albertosaurus' attack, minimum, maximum. You can then take genes and alter that minimum or maximum accordingly. And this would apply to all of the stats here included. So resilience, lifespan, environmental traits, its physical traits, its health, all that stuff. And we wouldn't have these tokens either. And I will, yeah. And then genes do more than increase stats. Now this is a cool concept I thought of. What if when you give a dinosaur a specific gene, it has another property? So let's take the strong tooth gene, the one that increases attack. It gives the dinosaur a 5% chance to be less likely to get a broken tooth, which is an injury. Why? It's just a small benefit, and it would have a downside too, like maybe the dinosaur is 5% more aggressive. Every trait, every gene would have, a little boost to it. That would make it to where it'd be like, oh, you want to make your dinosaur hyper aggressive? Use this gene because it has this property. You want to make your dinosaur super good at regenerating bones? Like increased bone density is the gene that I think is used for the drought tolerance. Well, increased bone density would give you, you're 5% less likely to break a bone basically. Something like that. And the balance that every gene with the bare minimum have one positive and one negative aspect. Some could have two positives, two negatives, but at least one good and bad thing. And then more customizable gene editing. We can only edit their drink needs, their hunger needs, lifespan, resilience, environmental needs, social needs, population needs, attack, defense, stamina. What if you could alter, their sleeping habits, their aggression, literally anything you could think? Like there are traits in Jurassic World Evolution too that the dinosaurs can get naturally, but you as the player can't give them. I think it'd be cool if you could alter the animal and make them completely like nocturnal. And just to make nocturnal better, if a dinosaur is nocturnal, they will sleep always during the day and wake up during the night. you know, makes the advanced editing more useful. You could also, with editing a dinosaur's aggression, you can make a T-Rex that's just a complete pacifist, or you can make a Triceratops that's a masochist. And just to get an idea, also, this is one thing that Frontier should definitely do. This is just Jurassic World Evolution 1's original gene editing system. If you look here, you can see T-Rexes, Iguanodons, Triceratops, and Indominus Rex. And I think anyone who's played this game can realize the flaws here. Indominus Rex has so many genes, T-Rex has way too many, Iguanodon has an okay amount, Trike has nothing. If my system like this or something like this gets added to the game, every dinosaur should have an equal amount of modifications. Because yes, while maybe Indominus Rex can have better stats than a Trike, the upside is you can modify that Triceratops to be stronger than the Indominus. Just like, look, one attack gene, one defense gene, and another defense gene. That's not enough to make the Trike strong enough. And then meanwhile, Indominus Rex says, look at this, defense, attack, 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 a lifespan gene, because you can actually get attack on those. Same thing with resilience. So when I mean by balance, I would mean every dinosaur would have two attack genes, two defense, two resilient, two environmental, two social, two of everything. Some might have three, like I think T-Rex could have three attack genes just because it's a T-Rex. And then hybrids, like Indominus Rex, could have four attack genes, but the downside to that is they have only one lifespan gene because hybrids are notorious for having really poor, health stats. Like, look at that lifespan and resilience compared to T-Rex. It's much better. But that would be the downside for hybrids. It's just they have poor lifespan genes. And maybe there would be a setting in Sandbox where you can give dinosaurs the same amount of genes all across the board, so they all have four in every stat. Balancing the system in gene instability, disease, and mental disease. Now, to simply explain this, we'll have to go back to this page. You have three categories: health, social, combat. If a person does too many genetic modifications, not only does the dinosaur become more or less likely to survive the incubation process, but there's also there will be a almost guaranteed chance that the dinosaur gets gene instability. If it gets gene instability on its health traits, it will be extremely diseased. So basically, it will be a walking, plague. It will die really fast and get other animals sick with really deadly diseases. Maybe this is how the DX virus is created. You make a really sick T-Rex because you just modified it so much to where its immune system is just messed up. Now, and then for social genes and combat genes, you can basically make an animal that is in a constant state of wanting to kill stuff or it just doesn't know what it wants in life. It's mentally ill, it's unstable, something like the Scorpius Rex. Just imagine you could modify a Carnotaurus so dramatically to where it just snaps and stops acting like a Carno and just goes on a huge killing spree because it's so genetically altered and just can't think straight. That's exactly what happened to the Scorpius Rex. And I think it would be cool if you could do the same thing for the hybrids. Like, you could make the Endoraptor stable so it doesn't go killing for sport. Indominus Rex, stable, it doesn't kill for sport. Same thing with Scorpius. But then you could make any other dinosaur unstable. This basically would allow people to make hybrids the closest way to, get to a hybrid. And then finally, the cosmetic gene. Now, this is fun. In Jurassic World Evolution 1, the cosmetic gene is what changed the dinosaur's skin. In Jurassic World Evolution 2, it's also what allowed you to change the skin. The big difference between the first and second game is gene editing in the first game gave the dinosaur increased rating. In the second game, it did nothing. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but I wanted to bring back this system. Now, how would we do that? First off, it would allow players to customize their appearance and it would have an impact on gameplay. I'm literally listing these before I guess I really didn't need these. Okay. Basically, you would be presented with this, something like this. You would be able to come to the cosmetic gene and, make your T-Rex black or yellow or whatever color you want. But all the way at the end, similar to the Indominus Rex is gene in the first game, the camouflage gene, you would go up to it and it would present you with the following options. Lux, modern bird, feathers, camouflage, crocodilian, mutant, and others. And to give a general idea, so these are obviously all images from all across the internet, but they're basically here to give you an idea. To start off simply, every dinosaur you can give the camouflage gene. It would basically function like the Carnotaurus in the Lost World and the Indominus Rex. Depending on what map they're on, they would be able to camouflage. A simple but cool feature, and it would give them increased rating. Feathers. Any dinosaur that doesn't have feathers, basically that we believe that had feathers, so like Allosaurus, Carnotaurus, Giga, Acrocanthosaurus would get a light dusting of feathers like the T-Rex skin. It'd be like this. It wouldn't be full covered feathers like these Dinons, it'd be like this. And speaking of the Dinons, any dinosaur that already has feathers, like Therizinosaurus, Utahraptor, and Guanlon, which is in Jurassic World Evolution 3, would get a male and female skin of a modern bird. So an example, as here, Blue Jay. I can see this being on the Utahraptors. It's like an exclusive skin for them. The one looks cool as hell, but also increased rating. You would also have a Lux skin for every dinosaur in the game, similar to the mods that do this. It would simply take their base pattern, you give it a specific color, and then, their Lux. A really simple idea, but it would be, a lot of people would like it and would also be really good for gameplay. There's also Crocodilian. A lot of dinosaurs in this franchise have osteoderms for no reason, so the idea that you can just give your dinosaur like a T-Rex a simple texture change and it has osteoderms, increased defense, increased rating, simple as that. T-Rex, now looks like a gator. I like that idea. And maybe you can even remove the osteoderms on something like the Dominion Giga. And then finally, the mutants. We'll also get to this one. The idea with this one is that obviously we're going to potentially we will get Distortus Rex in the next game. We will get muted on, but I will say this, mutants definitely have something cool about them. The idea that we can have disfigured dinosaurs. I've seen people like Evolution Square make videos on like how they would implement mutants. I think this is how they could do it. Have it to where some dinosaurs, Frontier chooses like Deuteranus, Pachycephalosaurus, have an exclusive mutant variant that looks deformed and disfigured. This concept art for the D-Rex could be used on the Scorpius Rex because that's what it looks like to me. But just imagine that you could have an exclusive variant and it would give it obviously increased rating, and maybe there would be some debuffs to it. It would allow, you to have more mutants in the park, so that way you could do a dedicated horror section or you could tell a story. I like the idea that there are more mutants, but they're like proper mutants with disfigured arms, disfigured faces, too many teeth, not enough teeth, messed up stuff like that. And then finally, when I mean by udders, I just grabbed this image on the internet because it looks cool. These are paleo-accurate hybrids. Paleo-accurate Scorpius rex, Malleosaurus, original idea for the Indominus rex, paleo-accurate Indom, Ultimasaurus, and Spiroraptor. I think these are cool ideas. Like imagine if you could take your Stegoceratops and swap its head out for a Chasmosaurus, or take the Stegosaurus aspect and replace it with Miragaia. Something like that. Give it, it's a hybrid. It's like, it's just a puzzle piece. You can easily swap a few head pieces out. And best of all, it wouldn't require Frontier to put much work into it. Replacing Stegoceratops' head with Chasmosaurus, very easy to do. But anyway, this is editing me. I'm gonna have to clip this in at the end of the video. But if you watched all the way to the end, I very much thank you for doing this, as this is my first video ever. I will make more of these, not in this same format, but like other game content, speculation for Jurassic World Evolution, other games, it's just my hobbies and my interests. Yeah, thanks for watching and see ya.